I moved to Evergreen in 1982, and pretty soon thereafter got involved in land use. Evergreen was undergoing a huge period of growth at the time, and it was really important for me to help maintain the character of Evergreen. So when I found out about what land trusts can do, I had a meeting to see what kind of interest there was out there for forming a land trust, and turned out there was a lot.
Malt kind of got its start in 1992, which was the idea of Linda Rockwell, who had the vision for a land trust in Evergreen, and she kind of called a meeting of the usual suspects, and we got together and decided to pursue the idea, and before long we incorporated Mountain Area Land Trust, and I was on the board, and I became the first president as a volunteer of Malt, and I was president until 2000. Linda Dahl followed me, and after that Greg was president of Malt, and it really evolved into one of the top-notch land trusts in, if not Colorado, the country.
Well, we work to conserve land and water and a way of life. And we work in 6 counties in the foothills, primarily of, the backdrop to Denver, from Pikes Peak to Longs Peak. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished, what, with his help, we accomplished. I mean, we couldn't have done it without his legal help. He's been instrumental all those years at Mountain Area Land Trust.
I was impressed by Greg. Obviously, he was a sharp real estate attorney, and he was a win-win attorney, which is really an essential type of attorney for a land trust. The biggest deal that Greg and I worked on was one called Beaver Brook Watershed. With Beaver Brook, it was really Greg and another board member, Mill Andrews, who made it happen.
In one of the meetings with the county commissioners, the chairman, who I knew quite well, said, there's an area of 6,500 acres on the north side of the highway between Bergen Park and Mount Evans that's owned by the city of Golden, and it's going to be put up for sale by the city of Golden.
It was their watershed for nearly 100 years, their source of water. And over time, they developed new sources of water, and Beaver Brook ended up being excess. And they decided to start exploring what options they had for the property. And at Mountain Area Land Trust, we ended up approaching them about considering preservation for the property.
We talked to a lot of people. I talked to the Forest Service because the land abutted the Forest Service. And they didn't have any money for this sort of thing. And I talked, the county introduced me to the people in the city, so I got a feel for what their constraints were. And their constraints were they needed a defendable price, that they had properly represented their constituents in getting the best money for the property. I ran into a fellow by the name of Greg Vallin. And he not only was a nice guy, but he had had a lot of experience dealing with municipalities. His specialty was real estate. And he came from a firm of a fair reputation, and I thought he would have good contacts as a result of that. I knew of their political activity and knew it was quite good, and we were going to need that help.
But eventually, we got the city to give us an option to buy the property for $20 million if we could get the county to back off the open space zoning. So we did, and we got the option, and then we had the right to purchase property. All we needed was $20 million. And we were kind of scratching our heads for a while. And then the Forest Service ended up saying they might be interested in the land. And that just changed the game. We immediately started lobbying Colorado's congressional delegation, lobbying Congress to appropriate the money to the Forest Service to buy the property. And Congress ended up agreeing to it over installments over 4 years.
Brownstein people introduced us to Udall's office. Mark was the congressman for the area, and we talked to his staff, and he was the staff, and ultimately he were very interested in supporting this project. And there was a fellow by the name of Campbell, Ben Nighthorse Campbell to be exact, who was the senator from one of the senators from Colorado at the time. He just happened to be head of the Senate Appropriations Committee at that time.
So Greg was back on airplanes going to D.C. to convince the Forest Service, convince Congress to honor the deal. And it ended up Great Outdoors Colorado, who has a lottery people, came up with the money for the fourth installment and closing it. And it was really a one-of-a-kind transaction. That appropriation from Congress was the largest congressional appropriation for conservation in Colorado history.
By the middle of the first decade of year 2000, we owned it. The citizens of Colorado and the United States owned it all. And I congratulate Greg on getting this honor. I congratulate him and thank him profusely, but I also thank Brownstein.
Greg's impact has been so instrumental. We could not have accomplished what we did without his review and legal advice. He's always been there to guide us. He's always been there to tell us, guide us in a way that, we feel really confident. The board of directors for the organization has asked him his opinion several times, and it's been what we do, based on his opinion and guidance. It's led to some really sound transactions, which is phenomenal.
Obviously, he did tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of pro bono work for Malt. And with a little organization like Malt, there's no way they could have incurred those costs to get those deals done. So if it wasn't for Greg, a lot of conservation just wouldn't have happened. He
made a long-term commitment, which not everyone does to a volunteer organization. And he's still involved to this day. So it's been like 30 years. Since, that's a pretty long commitment to any one organization. Recruiting younger people to be part of nonprofit and other volunteer organizations is not easy. And so because of that, I really admire him. He's just a devoted family man. The fact that once he chooses to make a commitment, he follows through on it and is just unfailingly calm, kind, and has a wonderful sense of humor.
Greg, it's just you've made a difference. It's that old saying that one person can make a difference, and he truly has made a difference in our area, to this organization, and to the people and community of Colorado. I just can't thank him enough for his gift of his time, and we wouldn't have been able to do anything we did without his help. So congratulations and thank you, and sure hope you enjoy your Lifetime Achievement Award because you earned it.
Greg, congratulations on a really deserving recognition. I hope you take the time to go look at some of the properties you helped preserve. They're there because you were. And something Steve Jobs said, you really made a dent in the universe.
So I would like to congratulate Greg on this honor, and I congratulate Brownstein Hyatt for recognizing all the wonderful work that he has done over many, many years. It's been a pleasure to know him, and I hope that our friendship continues.